those who live in this community. And ask the Father to be with them and bless them, bless them and help us come. Bless us all and not be able to return back to our normal behavior. But this COVID virus not be able to fade. We ask to bless those who have cause of mourning, who lost their friends and loved ones that we have. Bless those who are sick and afflicted with illness and make well for the life. We ask at this time to bless us that we'll have the rain and moisture we need to make ourselves conservative. We ask that you bless those who are less fortunate. Bless us that we'll be mindful of our and those who reach out to those. Bless us tonight as we meet, that we never do those things that we do in accordance with thy will. And we pray for this in the name of Jesus Christ.
Thank you, Councilman. Item 5. Bethany? And 6? Okay. Brings us to item 7.1, which is the minutes. Request us, Mayor and Council to approve and adopt March 9th, 2020 and August 10th, 2020 council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Brings us to item 7.2, the library social media policy. Victoria?
Of a library social media policy, which we do not currently have. We are communicating more frequently on all of our social media accounts due to the library closures, and we just wanted to have a policy in place to keep track of that process and inform the public of what our policies are regarding their use of the social media. Are there any questions?
Do you have any questions? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead with number 3.
This is a request for mayor and council to approve a service animal policy. We do see service animals more frequently here in the library, and we do want to have a policy again in place for access and to make sure individuals don't abuse that privilege to have the service animals in the library. Are there any questions?
Oh, that's just entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Victoria. I'm going to go ahead and do away with items 4 and 5, for we've already discussed those. That's going to bring us to, if I'm going too fast, let me know. We good?
You're doing good.
All right. All right, item 8.1, contracts, agreements, and bids.
So this is a request for the library to enter into a membership agreement with Copper, which is a consortium of partners procuring electronic resources. It is an Arizona nonprofit corporation, and it's a public procurement unit. Through this membership, the library would be able to get greater discounts on a lot of the services that we currently use. There is not a membership fee to join. It is just allowing us to purchase off the contracts this organization does procure on behalf of libraries across the state. Are there any questions?
So you're just like a member and that helps you get discounts?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Brings us to item 9.1, ordinance 020-008. Mrs. Anderson?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading of ordinance 020-008. I want to point out, and I think it falls maybe around page 29 of your electronic copy of this, that during the last council meeting and discussion of this item, council directed staff to come up with language to require some type of permit for people putting fences up. And so I added an amendment to chapter 17.76, site plan review. That particular chapter has a list of all types of things that need to be on a site plan, and then has exceptions for those. And I did some cleanup of the exceptions area that you'll see that are either struck through or in red for additions. And so if you go down to E, listed, it says the exception is so you don't have to do a full-blown site plan. That's what the exception is about. Like, for example, the single family and two family duplex just requires a simple plot plan and not a full-blown site development plan. So I added E, fences in a residential, commercial, or industrial zoning district, and fences shall be processed with a plot plan submitted to the director in conjunction with the zoning permit application. So our building permit application has an area you can check off that says zoning. And someone would fill that out and submit it to staff with a plot plan of the site showing the fence locations and the fence heights. There's no fee associated with this. It would just be a simple staff review. And I hope that addresses the concerns the council raised at the last meeting.
Were you able to find some way for somebody to, I don't know that I presented this properly, but there are some places which have a lot of frontage, and this rule is just so they can get out of their driveway safely, correct?
Yes, as far as, if you go back, whether it's a site obscuring or non-site obscuring fence, so the 3-foot and 4-foot height, that is listed under A on the previous page.
Well, we have streets in Safford that within 50 feet either direction, they have a 6-foot fence that fits into this code because their houses are facing the street, and that, but we also have some 300-foot lots that you're taking away their whole frontage, and I don't think it's realistic. I think there should be some appeals process for somebody who doesn't want to give up their whole front yard or let you dictate how they use their property.
So I emailed a diagram showing how either they could bring the 6-foot fence up to where the 20-foot setback is, or the front line of the house. They have an either-or option for that. That's in there. I looked at the county requirements that talk about a 30-foot site distance for driveways. I think that generally applies to larger lots that you have in the county, which you don't see as frequently here in the city, but we do have a few. So I guess my question would be, do you want to allow people with a larger frontage lot to have a 6-foot high fence all the way at the front property line with some clearance distances around the driveway? Was
Yeah.
that the goal?
Well, I think that would be proper in that, I mean, just thinking about a guy who just bought 2 acres, almost 300 foot of frontage. He's only gonna have one driveway, and you've taken about 20% of his property for a front yard that he probably doesn't want to maintain.
So just to clarify, fences can be brought all the way up to the front property line. So there's not a restriction on bringing the fence up to
But
the.
if he wants to put a swimming pool up there with a 6-foot fence, he can't do it, even though he's gonna be 100 feet from his driveway where he does that.
You can have a 6-foot fence, if you look at the property, on the side property lines, all the way up to that front 20-foot setback. But then it has to be reduced to 4-foot or 3-foot,
And I don't think that's right.
okay?
I think there ought to be some way to let that person use the property that they bought if they can still enter and exit properly and safely.
So I suppose one option would be to add additional language to this that people in those situations, which again are not many in the city, we mostly have smaller lots, but people in those situations can have the potential to come to council for a variance, or would you like me to add additional language that would allow those situations to exist when you have a certain
Well,
quantity of
I
frontage?
looked down 8th Avenue, and we have 4 or 5 streets that come out with houses facing, and there's only 100-foot gap for that street in between 2 6-foot walls, actually some 7-foot walls. But it seems to me that if somebody has over 100 foot of frontage, they can easily do that and still be able to use the other 100 feet of their property.
So Mayor and Councilman McGoy, if you want to provide further direction to staff to come up with some additional language that would address those type of situations, I'd be happy to do that.
I think we should probably table this until our next meeting, but I do agree with Councilman McGoy as well. I think that being the size of the lot needs to be very much so determined on this. to allow property owners, I think it would be wrong to come back to council for that. I think we could have the verbiage in here, so that we're not constantly coming back to council for a variance, because it almost seems like, well, you know, we're just doing it, but if we have the verbiage already in here, I think that would be, ready to go. Because I do agree, the size of lots should
Well,
determine.
There might not be 15 that would, I mean, there might not be 3 that would ever apply for something, but I think there should be some way for them to show, look, I have all this space, and I can safely enter and exit in this much space. Can I use the rest of my space?
And again, just to clarify, Mayor and Councilman McGoy, so similar to what the county has on your books, that if you have perhaps a 30-foot, that the fences cannot be higher than 3 feet or 4 feet, and then anything beyond that along the front property line could be up to 6 feet?
I don't know that what applies in the county applies in the city, but I think on some of these larger lots, larger frontages, I'm gonna say, not necessarily larger lots, but when you have a large frontage in some of these places and not a whole lot of backyard possibly, they just lose so much of it to a front yard they don't even really want.
And Mayor and McGoy, again, to clarify, because I'm a little confused, you can have your fence at your very front property line, just the question is the height of the fence at the very front property line, so
It's
that's
not
what.
it's of no value to me personally unless I can hide behind it, so,
Okay.
I mean,
And I don't know, just,
I think the officers need enough space that they can tell what's going on when they show up. But I don't think the whole 300 feet needs to be 6-foot fence.
do you have a desire of a certain amount of footage that would be a certain height, and then the rest could be 6 feet?
Well, just like I said, in looking at what we've got just on roads that intersect with 8th Avenue, we have everywhere from 85 to 105 foot openings. So I think maybe 100 feet is sufficient, because we've allowed all these subdivisions with, you know, that come out onto 8th Avenue with that much space, that much sight distance. I don't know why that wouldn't be good enough for a single driveway.
And if I may, Mayor and Councilman McGoy, I don't know if the police chief wants to comment on this item, mostly because of visibility of the front of the houses. If you have a 6-foot fence at the very front property line, for police and public
Right.
safety, there may be concerns about having that size fence, that then if somebody's on that property who shouldn't be, it gives them an opportunity that they're not seen by the public eye. Maybe that's fine, I'm just throwing that out there as a possible concern. But if you
True.
want it to be 6 feet in the front, I can certainly do an evaluation of lot widths in the city to get an idea of where we're at, and then come up with a number, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 200 feet. That if you,
I did see one of the drawings originally that was mapped out and it showed the house being pushed way back. Can you pull that up quickly so we can discuss that, and maybe we can get some clarification? That way we can know, like what Councilman McGoy is saying is the frontage spread, if it's over 100 feet, or 100 feet.
I
We
think the small fence should be at least as wide as the house. I mean, I think your officers should be able to see the whole house. If they've got to go in, they need to know what they're getting into. But I don't see the need to eat up all that yard that somebody might want to put a swimming pool in or something with, nope, sorry, you got to move it back, and now I don't have room for my pool.
let me see, just give me a second here to pull up an image. I think you were Mayor, you were probably talking about not the fence house images, but the, let me back up.
I think you might have presented it to the.
The lot
planning and zoning,
coverage.
And it showed the picture of a house recessed back, and then you had I just had a member of the board comment to me on it, and that's how maybe that's how I saw it.
Bear with me.
I don't wanna make a big deal out of it, I just thought I had brought it up last time and nothing changed, so if that's not gonna change, that's fine, I just,
That's, Mayor and Councilman McGoy, that's not the intention at all of staff, and the changes that I made in the code, so I didn't know. I know the permit part was discussed, but I didn't know that you wanted to pursue further, the access in the front. But I did look at the county requirements. Let me pull up the
So
lot
maybe it could be as
coverage.
simple as some verbiage in there that could be even left up to the building official when he pulls up on site, that if he feels that we have 100 foot from property line to property line frontage in the front, then he could make that determination, yes, you can bring this fence all the way into 6 foot. But you probably won't want that call, you'd rather have verbiage in here, I'm sure.
Yes, that would be much easier and clearer. So there is an image, I don't know if that's the image that you're thinking about, that
I think
showed,
that's it.
let me see if I can expand it. Basically
Was-
showing the
wasn't the dotted-
setback.
The dotted line is the setback?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
that's what I
that's
thought.
correct. Oops, sorry, it's moving around.
So for instance, if that house was pushed back where the trampoline is a little bit, if it could go back, that gives him more frontage in the front, and if a swimming pool was to be on the left or on the right-hand side, we couldn't do that accordingly with the fence line, that would have to stop at the 20-foot setback. So if that spread from property line, which is solid line to solid line, is 100 foot, I agree with Councilman McGoy.
Sure.
But if it's smaller, and of course, you know, like your standard subdivision lots, absolutely not. The requirements are so far up, and then from there on, it comes back to the 3 foot. If you wanted to put a fence in, it needs to maintain the 3 foot.
So Mayor, and Councilman McGoy, I can certainly add some additional language for, let's say, if we're gonna pick 100-foot width lots or greater, can have a 6-foot fence in the front yard,
You
either
could
follow
apply
the.
for it, and you guys approve it.
I'm
right?
sorry?
That they could apply for it, and you could grant it to them.
Yes, it would be similar to the language that we already have in here. It would just be another line item that would say, and for these type of lots, or these size frontage lots, you
But
can
make-
do X,
but-
Y, and Z.
Right, make them apply for it to where they have to do a little bit more work than just standard work.
And Mayor, that would be part of the requirement
Okay.
of just doing the site plan and doing the zoning compliance permit, that they would still have to show that on a plot plan and exactly where that 6-foot fence would fall.
Would that answer your?
that might work. I mean, I'm looking at this one and I'm thinking, well, it's really more about where the driveway is, where it meets the road, the distances from that. I mean, I don't know, maybe Lance could tell us what site distances are for a street. I mean, I think 50 feet in either way from a street is plenty. I don't know what rules there are, but
Mayor and Councilman McGoy, I get what you're talking about. So if that lot there was, say, twice as wide, and it was just, and they only fit their house front of the road, most of their backyard would basically be side yard, there's no reason they can't fence that in as long as they can get out of their driveway safely.
that's what I'm thinking.
I totally get what you're, and I'll get with Susan, and we'll put something together, but I agree, if we've got 100 foot in front of the house at their driveway, they can back out safely, pull out safely, and they've got an extra wide lot, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to come 6 foot out to the sidewalk and close, say they had a side yard that's their backyard instead of their backyard, so.
And do I understand that on this one, that setback line, what can be at that point?
The house, the front side.
But in this one, the house is already there. Where can the fence go right now?
It's
If I
gonna go
want
all the way out to the sidewalk.
6 foot,
No, 3 foot,
where
On
can the,
this one.
where can the 4-foot one start?
at 30 foot back. It can go to 6 foot at 30 foot back. 20 foot back.
Okay, so I mean, I know I'm getting all convoluted here, but if you put a 6-foot fence there, you've hampered the police and not helped them, I think.
6 foot in the front.
Yeah,
And we're not, it has to be 3 foot or a 4 foot see-through in the front regardless.
So if I may point out, for example, so right now, as that is written, you can have a 6-foot fence up to this point, and then from here around, it can only be 3 or 4 foot, depending on the type of fence. So if I understand, what you're saying is perhaps allow a 6-foot fence to come all the way to the front, and then you have, depending on where the driveway is, this could be, let's say it's not this wide of a driveway, but you could have 3 or 4 foot fence here for visibility.
I don't think it should be in front of the house. I think
I
there
agree with you.
should be a,
Just the sides.
just
If this lot
outside
was
the face of the house. If they have enough property, if they have a 60-foot house and they have 120 foot of frontage, the 60 foot, I think, should be open for your police to see.
So are you saying just
Stop
keep
it, right
6
there.
feet up to this corner? Is that the
Yeah,
thought?
or if that were a
And
bigger
not-
yard,
and
it could come over to right, you back up a little bit. I mean, even with
But
the
you're
edge of the
talking
house.
about following the line of
Yes.
the house,
Right,
right, across on either way. So a
Right.
6 foot could come down to potentially this point, and then it would drop down.
and then on this end, it couldn't because you wouldn't have the sight distance on this end of the house. It would have to be
Yeah,
30
whatever that
30 feet or
distance is.
whatever from the edge of the driveway.
So,
Yeah.
so the code we have, at corners on streets, we have 35 foot back in either direction.
And that probably would work.
It depends on what's on the other side too.
Right.
If there's,
Right.
another house there.
Because the driveway could be positioned way over in this corner,
True.
For the house, and then maybe you could
And that's
put
why
the
I
fence
think-
all the way down here.
That's why I thought that if you could actually look at it and make sure it works safely, rather than try to get verbiage that covers everything, because you're not gonna. Just get it where you can apply for, if you can show you can do this safely, then.
Right.
Yeah, as long as you show that you've got 3 foot in front of the house, you can apply for something to the side instead, as long as it's safe.
I don't think there's any way to get verbiage that'll cover everything.
No, there's not, but if they
Now-
apply, then you can cover it.
My question, Councilman McGoy, as well as staff, as what Lance had mentioned, my neighbor, although the reason why I bought that big lot is pretty much because I don't have a neighbor, but if I did have a neighbor, their driveway couldn't be facing that 6-foot fence either, correct? Is that what you had just said?
That's,
Go up there, yeah.
personally, what I do in my own lot, let's say this side yard right here, this guy wants to enclose this, but this guy, and he has a driveway, he's backing out.
Then-
You have to put this back to that 3 foot, so if somebody's backing out of their yard, they're not blocking that sidewalk. So it all depends on the situation.
Right. And if that verbiage is in there for that situation to where a plot plan shows,
Reviewed.
and then, of course, the building official goes out there and sees that and says, no, you can't have that, or you can.
I can see a situation where you've got a lot more frontage than you got depth, and your backyard's gonna be on your side.
Yeah.
The spot you wanna use.
In
and block-
cul-de-sacs, some of them come to a pie, there's nothing in the back.
That's right.
You think you guys could massage that verbiage and then bring it back to us at the first council meeting in September?
Absolutely, and it would be basically, staff will consider other situations on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
So I can come up with some language for that anybody who wants to exceed the requirements, particularly in the side and front yard, that we will review that on a case-by-case basis.
And then Susan, definitely address it on your side to where it doesn't, they can apply for it and come. I mean, ultimately they can, but try to handle it to where it doesn't even come before
Sure,
us.
sure,
Perfect?
sure. Be
Sounds
happy to
good?
do that. Yep.
Councilman McGoy, does that address your concern? We'll
Yeah.
hit that one prime time? Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. Then we're gonna go ahead with item 9.2, ordinance 020-009. Thanks, Susan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we're requesting approval of ordinance 020-009 to update the Model City Tax Code. This was brought to council, this is the second reading, it was brought to council at the previous meeting. And the goals of the Model City Tax Code are to provide a greater degree of uniformity throughout the cities and towns for ease of business, but to continue to retain individual opportunities for cities to determine exemptions and items to be taxed. I do want to make it very clear that by updating these, the policy, we are not changing any rates, and so all of the rates will continue to be the same.
You say that one more time?
So no rates are changing. Our current tax rate is 2.5%. It will remain the same, except for the items above 5,000, which will be taxed at 1%. So all of that will remain the same.
I'll move to approve, ordinance number, R20-009.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Alma. I think that brings us to item 10-1, resolution R20-002.
Mayor and Council, ordinance O-200009 that was approved referenced resolution R-20-022, which adopts all of those changes into our city tax code.
So moved.
We have a
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Would you read that in, Tammy? Motion passes, by the way.
It's resolution number R-20-022, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Arizona, declaring as a public record that certain documents filed with the city clerk and entitled the 2012-2014 amendments to the tax code of the city of Safford.
Okay. Brings us to item 10-2, resolution R20-023.
Mayor and Council, tonight staff is requesting approval of resolution R-20-023, which is a resolution to establish fees for city employees, services, and the use of equipment in connection with services related to authorized municipal activity for outside entities. Currently, departments are charging rates based on current payroll for employees, so their current rate of pay. By establishing this resolution, all services, including public works and utility services, will be charged at a rate of $50 per hour for services during normal business hours, and outside of normal business hours, $75 per hour, which would cover overtime rates. And then equipment used during those services provided would be charged per hour based on FEMA rates.
That's still pretty cheap. My 2 cents. Motion? I'll have to, go ahead, discussion, go ahead.
So, we're charging them now during normal business hours and after hours.
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, that is correct. We are charging entities currently, but they are being charged the rate of the employee's hourly rate of pay rather than a set dollar amount.
Okay, so
Set fee.
they could get off cheaper this way?
Mayor and Councilman Lopez, I did review this with all of the utility managers and with Public Works, and no, there shouldn't be any employee that would be making the $50, should cover every employee within the city.
Okay, so you're not charging this per employee?
Yes, this would be charged per employee per hour. So if 3 employees had to go out for an hour, each one of those employees would be charged at $50 per hour.
So it possibly is gonna go up for the citizens.
It would go up for the entities, correct. I'm sorry, it would not, we wouldn't be charging less to the entities, it would be charging more.
So what brought this on? You're not recouping enough money when you do this?
Correct, for most of the departments, for water especially, we were not recouping enough from just charging the base rates.
So now, during normal working hours, which we are the enterprise that's in this business, so we're charging them during our work time to work on our stuff.
No, this, Mayor, Councilman Lopez, this would be for instances, for instance, someone in the community, if they hit a light pole and our electric department had to submit, if that individual needed to reimburse the city for that light pole and for our employees going out and fixing it, they would use this rate to give a quote to the police department or to the courts or whoever's mandating that they have to pay or reimburse us for that.
Or to
And
the,
so-
or to the insurance to recoup
Or to the
it.
insurance, correct.
What-
So
what-
these are the rates we would charge for those types of services. Now, we currently have a mutual aid agreement, which was approved maybe a month or 2 ago with Town of Thatcher and the co-op. And for the Town of Thatcher and the co-op, between the 3 entities, including ourselves, we would be paying the hourly rate of employees' individual pay rates. And that's a mutual aid agreement to just help each other. So those 3 entities are included in that mutual agreement, and for them, the rate would be based on what the employee's hourly rate is.
I guess what I'm getting at is, ordinary citizen, for example, has a water leak or has something to do with the water or the electricity or the gas, if you come out and work on that individual's home, you're charging them this?
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, we do not work on individual properties or
No, no.
if it's,
Okay. Electric again. If you come out to somebody's home and work on the line going to their home, okay, at a certain point you stop. Okay, because that's
Correct.
their, it goes to them from there on.
correct.
Okay, so you're charging them to come out and do that?
I may have to refer to Dan, but I don't believe we are charging for, when we're going out and fixing our portion of the line,
Okay,
we are
ours.
not charging the individual,
Okay, because there wasn't, because you said normal operating times.
Mayor, Councilman, for normal maintenance, there's no charge. The only charge would be for what Alma was talking about, would be any type of construction, new construction or repairs that we have to do because of an accident or something like that.
Okay, because that don't, it
But
don't
normal
clarify.
maintenance, there is no charge.
Okay, because it don't exactly clarify that, and then you're saying you're charging FEMA rates, but you don't have a charge. You don't show any FEMA rates in anything you presented, so I don't know what you're charging. You gave me the $50 and the 75, but
So
I know
Mayor-
no more after that.
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, and the reason being is that FEMA rates will change, and so that we don't have the need to bring the resolution back to council every time the FEMA rates change. When they update those, the wording, the verbiage is specifically to state that it will be, the FEMA rates at the time of service. So if the FEMA rates did change, then we'd be able to charge that new rate.
Question?
Yeah.
And that could be dependent, I would guess, on what type of equipment you're using.
That's
Is that
correct.
So it'd be impossible just about to list the price for every piece of equipment we own. So that would be determined at the time that we go out.
That's correct.
Okay, but that's kind of what I'm getting at, Alma, and, okay, I know FEMA rates are gonna change and all that kind of stuff, but you didn't give me anything to make a decision tonight, an idea of where we're gonna start. An idea of where we're gonna begin charging, what rates possibly. You just said, I'm gonna charge this, but I don't know where you're gonna start. And I know you don't want it to, you want it to be flexible in the resolution going forward. But where are we starting right now? You gave me 50, you gave me 75. But what I'm really getting at is no citizen should be charged anything extra, normal hours, for us doing any work on there unless it was a traffic accident, like you said, or something like that. Because we're in the business already to supply them a service. So we're not gonna charge them more to come out there and do it during normal working hours, are we?
No, you're correct, Councilman Lopez. We would not charge them for any of the our normal day-to-day services. When I sent the resolution to, our attorney Sims, he recommended that we specifically state in there that it would be, work related to municipal activities. And basically, he said if we didn't have that specifically in there, that it could be work, and the example he used was selling shoes. So he said there needed to be very specifically written like that. So he actually added that verbiage in there. So that's why that's in there written that way, because we are in the business of providing municipal services. And so, but it is not including our normal day-to-day maintenance and the other processes we have and the other stuff we need to take care of.
I had a question, I don't know if this will clarify it or not, but, so basically, we're not charging for anything that we didn't charge before. The rate will be a little bit different because we're charging, a flat amount per hour rather than what the employee was making, but nothing else changed. We're not charging for things we didn't used to charge for. Is that correct?
That is correct, Councilman Seal.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I'm getting at. We're not putting added burden on the residents for the service we're providing already, and especially after hours, you know, because, they may call you and it could be our fault. So I wouldn't wanna charge them for something that's our fault.
I think this is like accidental work. If I back over my water meter and smash it, and I think then I call, and then you guys come out and say, Jason, this is gonna cost you $150. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, because we did it.
Again, I think, Mayor, Councilman Lopez, this is for external entities outside of the city. So this isn't dealing with our customer base, this is dealing with outside organizations that want to use our staff, or, as she said, in the case of an accident, but it's not, doesn't apply to our own citizens.
Okay, because that's who I don't want no rates to go up or added cost.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
John,
Going forward.
I don't know that I agree with what the verbiage you just used on that, because I don't want us to be in business to hurt private businesses. So I would definitely be very cautious on how much we were to do outside of our norm. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Because
I do.
we do have businesses that do this kind of work, and we shouldn't be in the business to take business away from our private sector.
Understood, yeah. Mayor, Council, I think there are instances where they actually request our assistance, so
Sure,
sometimes
exactly.
we're working in
And now they
unison with
have a
them.
set
and-
number.
Right, so we wouldn't be necessarily going out to seek any additional
Okay.
work. It would be if they came to us and requested that we provide assistance to them.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep, I think, we're okay. Arnold, is that?
Yes, sir.
Is that?
Yes, sir. I just didn't.
Feel good?
I didn't want citizens to have to pay more when we're the only game in town.
All right, so, with the resolution R 20-023, right, is that where we're at? We need a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion,
Second.
a second, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Tammy, would you read that in?
Resolution number R 20-023, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Safford, Arizona, to establish fees for city employee services and the use of equipment in connection with services related to authorized municipal activity for outside entities.
Okay, brings us to item 10.3, resolution R 20-024.
This resolution is the canvass of the vote for the election held for August 4th, 2020, which declares the winners of the election. Is there any questions on it?
Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, brings us to item 11.1, P card
Guess
report.
I think I do have a question.
Okay,
on
go ahead.
that. Maybe I didn't read it right, but if I read it right, it says those people shall be put in place today? Is that
No,
not what that said?
no, No, we have to do the canvass before we can do the swearing in. Typically, they wouldn't take office until the first meeting in January, but we
Sure,
will
I
have,
thought.
yeah, we will
I'd
have
thought,
one of
but
them.
that's not what it said. Or maybe I probably misunderstood. I'll shut up.
So we are down a council member, so the way I understand it, when we chose to go this route, we could ask Mr. Hemphill to come on board, first meeting in September.
Correct.
If we chose to, or we could make him sit out until January 1st,
Correct.
because that was what the people voted on.
Yes.
So it's up to us if we want to bring him on or not.
When do we make that decision?
I think we.
So I previously did discuss with each one of you individually, and we all did come to the consensus that we will swear him in on September 14th, the first meeting in September. And then the other two winners will be sworn in the first meeting in January.
Can we go on? Okay, brings item 11.1, the P card report. Let you have a chance to review it.
The only question I have, and I said something about it last time and gigged Glenn on it, but there's 4 or 5 items on there that are over 5,000. Is that no longer a under and over, or is, I mean, we have an above $5,000 list and an under, but yet there's 4 or 5 items on here that are over. Is that because they bought 2 items and stuck them on the same ticket, or are they just on the wrong list, or is it because it went on a P card, it's on that list?
So, Mayor, Council, Councilman McGoy, everything that's purchased with the purchase card will be on the P card listing. If it is over 5,000, I did instruct Linda to start putting those items also on your over 5,000. So there will be times where you'll see duplications.
So they're on both.
So they should be on both. One of them, for instance, the Verizon, it's multiple transactions, that make up the one large one. So sometimes those get missed, but I kind of went through that, and I thought I had caught most of those, but no, you should see them on both reports. If it's on the P-card report and it's over 5,000, you should see that on your over 5,000 report, and I'll verify with staff to make sure that they are doing that. But just so that you are aware that it is possible. Actually, I can see right now on the over 5,000, there are some reference numbers that say MC, so those would be MasterCard. Those will be P-card purchases that will also show up on your P-card report.
Okay.
Okay?
Like, and I see the charge for the job posting for the engineer. Is that, we still advertising that, or how are we coming along?
I'll refer that one to Lydia.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, we are still advertising for that position,
Okay,
but not a whole lot of luck.
okay, ma'am.
Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Other than, I think this goes to Mr. Napier. For e-dispatches, on paging service, I'm not sure what that is.
That is the paging service for the fire department. So the e-dispatches is, so it takes the page that goes out to the pagers and it actually converts it and goes to their cell phones.
So the e-dispatches is the emergency dispatches.
Yep.
Okay.
Or electronic dispatches,
Or
whatever. I don't know
electronic
what,
dispatches.
I'm not sure what the E stands for, but that's what it is.
I wasn't sure either. That's how we call it.
Yeah, that's for the fire department.
For the fire. Okay, so
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay.
I just had a comment, that, I'd just like to remind all the staff and that, to try and spend the money in Safford, that benefits us, the tax revenue.
So noted. Expenses over 5,000. Revenues over 5,000. What?
I just wanted to make sure, we see them on our phones and our alerts and stuff where people are still trying to defraud us in different ways and stuff, and I'm just hoping, because we haven't seen much training either, because we scaled back because of the budget and stuff, but I see that IT is getting on it and trying to take care of it. I'm hoping that we don't have incidences on the horizon where we're gonna have money taken out and stuff, that everybody's still on guard.
Go ahead, John.
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, the IT department does send stuff out. I don't know if council gets it, but they continue to alert us internally when they find any kind of suspicious emails. So they're keeping an eye on it as they monitor our emails and stuff and letting us know if they see anything that looks a little bit out of whack. So they're still looking at it.
And we've had change in we've had change in signature cards and stuff. I just want to make sure everybody's on.
Sure.
That we avoid anything we've done in the past don't happen again.
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, I just want to address really quickly that with Chase Bank, they have offered some new features. And so we've done a dual approval system with them now. And so currently Tammy and I are the system administrators on there now. And so every transaction that goes through Chase Bank, there's a dual transaction or a dual approval process. So there's two people having an eye on the transactions. They also have a new feature called a debit blocker, which allows us to say who can take money from our accounts, or even they also do it the opposite way as well. For someone to deposit in, we have to authorize them to deposit into their accounts, and so there's a lot more safety features within Chase Bank that kind of take care of some of those fraudulent issues.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Next item 12, announcement. Are we good?
Yes, sir.
Item 12, announcement of current events. Anybody have any?
Friday, we had a Siegel meeting here. It took me 2 times to get upstairs, but it all worked out fine. It was a good day. Randy Hess, he's the executive director of Segal, was up here. And I think the biggest thing that I know kind of alarmed me was the census that's taking place at this time. Just for example, the national average on the count, the national is 63.4%, Arizona's at 60%. By county, under 40%, there's Clifton, Patagonia, and Duncan. That's the people counted, okay? Under Santa Cruz, let me go to the next. Under 50%, there's Tombstone and Wilcox. Under 60%, there's Nogales, Benson, Douglas, Bisbee, and Safford. Okay, and 70%, Safford sits at 62.5%, Thatcher 64.3%, and Sierra Vista 67%. This census, we have to realize how serious it is. It affects both Segal's funds and the funds that we have coming into Safford. So we have to make sure that we get the word out, paper news, they have to pick up on it. It seems like it is kind of quieted down right now. I think the deadline for the count is September 30th, I believe. So.
Yeah, I think they moved it out even farther. They're giving more time on it.
Oh, I thought they pulled it back too. Okay.
They moved it back to September 30th.
Yeah.
So that they could submit their report, Mr. Mayor, submit the report to the federal government by December. So we make sure we're requesting this.
So it's important. It's important. We gotta just make sure. I don't know exactly what we do. You know, get a hold of the newspaper. But Segal, they're very, very concerned about it. That's all I had.
Anybody else? I don't know, you had mentioned, and of course, I don't know how you're able to throw in the, ask about the engineer on that item, but you did. And I'm gonna ask how we're doing on the, loosely, and we won't have anything on that as far as talk, but how are you coming on your, search for the, assistant city manager?
Mayor, council, members of council, we are progressing, and in fact, this week we'll start doing some interviews. We've got a few candidates that we want to take a look at. I think we're up to 4 at this point. Yeah. So, and if any additional ones come in, we'll look at those as well. So we should start doing the interviews this week.
Are they all out of Safford, or do we have any in-house?
I know there's one in-house, and I think, are they local? I don't recall. I think the rest are out of state.
Okay. And that does not have anything to do with the council, that is hired directly by the manager?
Yes.
The only requirement that the council did ever put on it was that they have to become a resident of Safford.
That's correct.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Item 12, item 13? Looks like we're gonna have Lance first on the CIP status update.
Get this up on the screen. Evening, Mayor and Council. Back in June, I brought you a CIP status update. We didn't quite finish up the fiscal year, so I wanted to come back and bring you not only a end-year wrap-up of our CIP status as well as what's coming up in the future year. So I've included in your packet not only a dashboard of the end of fiscal year 20, but some highlights of what we accomplished in 2020, and then also what is on the dashboard for what's on the horizon for 2021. So I revised this dashboard a little bit. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. A couple of items on here that I wanted to, I won't talk about in the highlighted projects, but we were in the middle of working on the reclaimed water line to the fairgrounds. That's in design. Some of the things that were completed that I won't talk about in the highlights was our street preservation, the rectifier installation the gas department did, as well as the equipment storage building the electric division put in at the Mayock yard. One thing I did adjust on the bottom of this report, I've added a graph that kind of summarizes by division or by department the CIP budget as well as what's spent. I think that'll be a lot of help to you to see how each department, how much they've got in their budget, where they're at spending wise. And so there was a couple tables in the previous version that I didn't really think provided you a lot of benefit, and a lot of them were duplication. So hopefully that's helpful to you as well. And you can comment on that when we get to it as well. As far as highlights in the last fiscal year, the new police station was obviously awarded a dance construction for $2.3 million. The pre-construction meeting is scheduled for September 3rd. At this meeting, we'll establish a mobilization date and notice to proceed as well. That project is 165-day completion, or substantial completion, 180-day final completions. So once that notice to proceed is issued, we'll have a final date. Our CDBG project was the playground improvements that we did earlier in the year for the rubberized surface at Glen Meadows and Firth Park. Turned out really well. That was roughly $242,000 grant funded through CDBG. Our La Tierra Park, Pocket Park project was a very successful in-house project that was completed by staff. Not listed on this, but also wanted to just update you that the shared use lighting path around the cemetery was completed, and that was a budgeted item for last year's CIP. Those lights are now on around the cemetery. In the streets department, Firth Park parking lot was completed. The landscaping there will be done in-house, so we're working with IT to run some new lines over to get some more cameras in there, and then we'll landscape around the ramadas as well as out around the parking lot. Water department, Bonita 4 and 5. Pre-construction meeting is scheduled for August 26th this week. We'll also have a mobilization date established at that time, and we'll determine when the notice to proceed will be issued on that project as well. That project's a 210-day substantial completion and 240 days for final. Also in water, our Main Street water upgrades were completed in-house. Sewer main upgrades, 20th Street and 14th Avenue sewer projects. The 20th Street upgrade there was an 8-inch restriction. We had a contractor tie that in with a 12-inch sewer connection, and then on 14th Avenue we tied into the Stone Willow sewer line with a slide gate so we can adjust flows heading north or through the Stone Willow subdivision. The gas department, Jensen Addition main renewals were completed in-house. The gas department coordinated with the street department. We got all those in and patched so we could also get all those streets chip sealed in our pavement pres program this year, and those all turned out really nice. The electric department, the feeder upgrade project, replacing poles and conductor at various locations in the system was completed. And then, any questions so far? You want me to move on to the?
Just real quick, what happened to the gas department? Why we overspent what was budgeted?
On
your little graph, you got blue, unless you made them air.
Yeah, I think Raymond might be able to talk on this, but I think
6,000.
we went over on the rectifier installation, right?
On the Jensen Addition project, we had to redo some of the roads. We had to pull out all the non-shrink and redo all that on a couple areas. This one, we also went over on the rectifier install. The bids came out a lot higher than what we had first proposed. Unfortunately, we had to go deeper because of the soil. So we had to put our anodes at 200 feet when normally we put them about 30, 40 feet. So we wanted to put them at 200 feet because they'll last a lot longer. So digging that added to the cost quite a bit.
Thank you.
And that was the only spot you could punch for a rectifier?
Yes, sir. It's for the high pressure main, the 6-inch that comes from the Kinder Morgan gate to our regulator station, and it runs right along First Avenue. So we put it right there by Graveyard Wash. Unfortunately, the soil there is not that great, and anodes seem to deplete a lot more in that ground. We've actually tried to put them in there, and they just deplete pretty fast. So we actually had to drill 200 feet. We put them in, and it's working so far. Great. It's actually working really good.
Okay.
So the last thing I have in here is I've got a dashboard summary for this coming fiscal year. I haven't included the project status report. We're still working on schedules for all the projects, so you'll have that in your next update. This one just has a status of the current projects listed here. Obviously, the police station's on there. East 8th Street's still under construction. That should be done mid-September is the schedule. They'll be doing curbing down 8th tomorrow, starting tomorrow. 20th Avenue widening, that's design. That's a funded project through ADOT that will bid out this fall, start construction hopefully in the winter. 14th Avenue rebuild, that one we want to bid out in the spring, start construction at the end of the school year. Bonita 4 and 5 obviously has been awarded, and that one's going to be moving forward shortly. And then our reclaimed water line to the fairgrounds, that construction is for our in-house, tying in from what we're putting in now up to the back of the Best Western there where we stopped on our old line. So that's the section we'll do in-house, and then the bid project for next year would go from Relation to the fairgrounds.
You know, on the 20th Avenue, we gave up a lot of parking for a lot of people in that area, and that's still the status. There's nothing we can do to make parking better for some of that. Like I'm talking about the Safe House, for example.
Yes, Mayor, Councilman Lopez, there is going to be some parking issues there. I know in the past, there's been conversations about purchasing some of that property there. The old vacant house, I think, was purchased by Mr. Lyons. There was talk of doing something there on that property, tearing down the house, keeping access for him to his farm ground, and then doing some parking on the safe. That can still be negotiated as well, but there is going to be some issues with parking.
But for example, Mr. Lyons willing to get in there and try to help us with the Safe House, with parking and stuff. Are we going to be able to maybe work with him also?
I haven't talked to him personally, but the conversations that I believe was had in the past with Mr. Petty and Horatio, I believe he's willing to work with the city, but I haven't talked to him personally. I'd have to verify it, but I think he would be.
Well, I kind of know he's new to have purchased that. I hope we reach out to him and.
I think he bought it with the intent of working with the city. That's kind of my understanding, but I'll reach out to him and find out for sure.
I don't want to lose contact with him, sir.
No, and I agree with you. We're going to have some businesses, a lot of businesses have parking in the rear, but we are going to have an issue right there with the Safe House, and that would be great if we could work with Mr. Lyons to do something there as well.
Thank you. Maybe even the design of a street light hitting there, but that's up to you. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Lance, I had a couple of citizens tell me to tell you thank you for taking care of that request in that alleyway. So tell your crew thank you, okay?
I do have one more, Lance.
Go ahead.
I'm hoping that you do, if you can, add a little bit to the budget for them crack sealing and stuff. I think they did a real good job last time, and they didn't really have camp help this time around, and I know that our streets, that project is very important, and I hope they get enough material.
It is, and I've said it before, I hate to say it, I miss the inmates, but we will really miss them when we do some more crack sealing. That they're vital. We put 2 of them on there, and it helps us get a lot more accomplished.
Yeah, that does, and I don't know who painted the lines, but I know they were in training, because they were.
Well, we only had one spot we had to black out and redo, so.
Yeah,
we did some good training though.
Yeah, it wasn't even a windy day, and I thought, I wondered if I had my glasses on or not, but it was all training, so it was all good.
No, it was good. Thank you.
All right, brings us Mr. Morgan Still on the water table update. Do you have that?
Mayor, members of council, Morgan is not here this evening.
Okay.
Morgan is home keeping company with a new member of his family.
Oh, awesome.
And so he asked me to convey his deep regret that he could not put his water table graph up tonight and explain it, but he assured me in his words that nothing exciting was going on and that the water tables were quite solid right now. We're fine.
Perfect. Sounds good. Vice Mayor?
Time to adjourn. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Got a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.